To produce an artisan ghost town table with its own lighting system, here's how we made the mysterious and beautiful foyer table titled Cave In at the Old Ghost Mine. The idea was to create a deep diorama table displaying a dramatic view of the interior of an old gold mine and the ghost town and mountains just outside the gold mine's mouth. We started with a 39 by 18 inch blank that was matte black. We optimized space by cutting an irregular hole through it, measuring approximately 12 by 9 inches, offsetting the hole 2 inches to the left of center to allow for a space to the right of the aperture for interior mine detail, avoiding gluing any of our chosen media, that of hackberry, oak, and mulberry branch or limb slices in this area. Once the penetration was made, we cut 30 varying wood slices in half, sanding flats on adjoining edges and gluing these down as a border around the edge of the blank. We filled the rest of the blank with assorted wood slices, leaving some loose space at the top and right side of the mine's mouth. Black sand was applied between the wood slices, and care was used to clean the surfaces of excess sand. In the open areas inside the mine, we applied vertical and horizontal columns of thick wood glue, onto which we sprinkled small amounts of covering fine black sand. This technique produces a rough-hewn look appropriate for the mine's interior. When this hardened, various details were added, including carefully cut and shaped red cedar beams supporting the roof of the old mine. Wood glue was applied to a piece of non-stick aluminum foil to form an intentionally uneven 9-inch column so that we could peel it off when it dried. To this column, more black sand was glued. When dried, we fastened this independent strip between the curved ceiling of the old mine and a contrived pile of stone, sand, wood fragments, and gold on the floor of the mine. Later, when encased in layers of epoxy, this feature gives 3D depth to the cave-in. It allowed us to place a luminescent gold prospector deep inside the mine, and numerous fluttering bats at varying depths in the plastic. Plenty of 24-karat gold leaf was added in the ceiling, falling debris and heap on the floor of the mine. Turning the stock over, now we glued a glass pane in over the hole, carefully sealing it to the backing with adhesive caulk. Turning the stock back over right side up, we used various media to create an old narrow gauge railroad, wood debris, and water gushing from a fissure in the upper left side of the mine and flooding the mine's mouth. Rats add a credible dingy touch, and we made sure that their noses and tails glisten as if wet using fine metal flake. Care was taken to repeatedly sweep the glass surface of debris as the details were embedded in layers of epoxy rosin. When plasticized, this slab was turned upside down, and 1/4-inch flooring stock was cut to 5-inch height and added flush with the tops of the newly sanded log slices to make the deep diorama box for the table. Now we turned attention to creating lateral 4-inch high by 48-inch long by 1.5-inch deep channels on an exterior workbench and lined them with non-stick foil. The bottom of the channels were covered with metal mesh, into which a 3/8 deep ultrafine concrete mix was poured. Then we pressed 4-inch pieces of ghost town wood into the unset concrete. To help minimize the amount of rosin needed to fill for our channels, we filled in and around this wood with white sand and then coarse white gravel along the bottom edges. Epoxy was then added in 1/4-inch incremental layers with lots of medium heat gun action prior to setting to reduce bubbles. When the filled channels were properly hardened, we rough sanded them. They were then cut at 90-degree angles just to the corners of the table, and 15-minute epoxy was used to glue them, still rough sanded, to the 5-inch fitted sides of the diorama. The inch of the side faces that protrudes below the edging was copper coated for durability and beauty. The inch-deep concave right angle in each corner was then filled with 1/4 log slice pieces laminated together. 3 lengths of quality composite flooring were cut to length and glued together to form the floor of the diorama box, which is also the bottom of the table to which the leg system was fastened. We created a dramatically gesso-enhanced, layered 3D diorama scene in which the hand-painted mountain ranges and ghost town foreground layers, 3 layers, are separated by 3/4-inch square slats of wood, along which we installed low-voltage RGB LED light strip, being careful to wire this apparatus as well as its IR remote system through the bottom of the table in the lower left end. The light system specs and description are fixed to the side of the diorama inside the table. Due to the small viewing aperture of the mine and the large diorama that is curved up toward the table in all directions, it is impossible to see the edges of the artwork regardless of the point of view in any display environment or room. As the lighting changes color, there is amazingly a spot where the clouds disappear. The last effort was put into making a very strong, that is red oak, rough hand-cut 6-leg support system for this table. The end legs are decorated with rough wood-burned goat head burr plants, desert critters, and pioneer-era artifacts like wagon wheels, kerosene lanterns, handles, and such. Cave In at the Old Ghost Mine is a one-of-a-kind deep diorama table trimmed with rosin-embedded wood, inlaid shell, 24-karat gold, and red oak veneer, a dramatic recollection of bygone years.